With just a few days to go until the coronation, Princess Anne has dismissed calls for a slimmed-down monarchy, saying it doesn't seem to her like a good idea.
What could be so earth-shattering that it would bring a queen to her knees in front of the entire royal family? Inside the ancient walls where kings and queens have ruled for centuries, something happened that nobody saw coming. Queen Camilla, known for her strength and determination, suddenly fell to the ground, her face white as snow, her hands shaking uncontrollably. What caused this dramatic moment? It was Princess Anne, standing firm and fearless, holding a piece of paper that contained King Charles's final wish. Words so powerful, they changed everything in an instant. This wasn't just another royal announcement or a simple family message.
I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow. It was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family.
This was a decision that tore apart years of planning, shattered expectations, and left everyone speechless. The room went completely silent. Hearts stopped beating. And in that single moment, the future of the British throne was rewritten forever. Stay with us to uncover the shocking truth behind this story. The gathering nobody expected. Everything started on what seemed like an ordinary afternoon at Windsor. The royal family had been called together for what everyone believed would be a simple ceremony, a peaceful moment to remember King Charles and celebrate his life. The invitation had been formal but warm, suggesting nothing unusual was about to happen. Camilla walked into that room feeling confident and secure. She had spent years building her position, surviving criticism from the public, and proving herself worthy of standing beside Charles. In her mind, this gathering was just another step in securing her influence over the monarchy's future. She had worked too hard and came too far to worry about surprises. But something felt different the moment she entered. The atmosphere was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Princess Anne stood near the center of the room, her expression unreadable but intense. There was a stillness about her that didn't belong in a room meant for gentle memories and kind words. Camilla noticed it immediately, but pushed the feeling aside. She took her seat, adjusting her position slightly, trying to read the faces around her. William looked serious. Catherine seemed unusually focused. Other family members were watching Anne with curious eyes. Then, Anne stepped forward. In her hands was an envelope, sealed and clearly old. The room grew quieter, if that was even possible. Anne announced that she would be reading something deeply personal, a message written by King Charles himself during his final days. It was meant for the family, not for the public. These were his true thoughts, his real feelings, his last instructions. Camilla's confidence began to crack. She opened her mouth as if to speak, perhaps to suggest this should be done privately, but Anne didn't pause. Her voice was steady and strong, cutting through any objection before it could be voiced. This was happening now, whether anyone liked it or not. As Anne broke the seal and unfolded the letter, every person in that room held their breath. The words that were about to be spoken would change lives forever. And Camilla, sitting with her hands gripped tightly together, had no idea just how much her world was about to collapse. The final months, what Charles really wanted. To truly understand what happened in that room, we need to go back several months. Behind the carefully managed public appearances and official photographs, King Charles was living through something deeply personal. His health was declining, though few people knew the full truth. But more than his physical condition, something else weighed on his mind: the future of the monarchy and who would protect it after he was gone. He spent long hours alone in his private study, thinking about decisions he had made, relationships he had built, and the legacy he would leave behind. During these quiet months, Charles grew closer to Anne in a way that surprised even those who knew them well. They had always shared mutual respect, but now their bond deepened into something more profound. Anne would visit him late at night when the palace was empty and silent. They talked for hours, not about ceremonies or public duties, but about truth and trust. Charles confided fears he had never spoken aloud before. He worried about the direction the monarchy might take. He questioned whether certain people close to him truly understood what the crown represented. Camilla's name came up in these conversations, though not in the way she would have hoped. Charles began expressing doubts, quiet, careful doubts about whether her vision for the future matched his own. He never spoke with anger or accusation. Instead, there was sadness in his voice when he talked about the distance he felt growing between them. He wondered if her ambitions had become more important than the values he wanted to preserve. These were not thoughts he shared with advisors or wrote in official documents. These were whispers shared only with Anne, the one person he knew would never betray his confidence. It was during this time that Charles began writing the letter, not at a desk surrounded by royal staff, but alone with just pen and paper. He wrote slowly and carefully, choosing every word with precision. This wasn't a legal document or a public statement. It was a personal message from a king to his family, a message that revealed his deepest wishes for what should happen after his death. He worked on it for weeks, adding lines, crossing out sections, making sure it said exactly what he meant. Anne watched this process unfold. She understood the weight of what Charles was creating. When he finally finished and sealed the envelope, he looked at her with tired but determined eyes. He told her this letter was for the family alone, to be opened at the right moment. No one else could touch it. No advisors could rewrite it. No politicians could soften it. This was his voice, pure and unfiltered, and Anne alone would decide when the world was ready to hear it. As Charles's condition worsened, the letter became more than just paper and ink. It became a promise, a burden, and a weapon all at once. Anne carried it with her, keeping it safe, waiting for the moment when its power would be needed most, and that moment was coming faster than anyone realized. Camilla's climb to power.
In the case of King Charles' death, the title change of the Queen is clear. King Charles III was officially crowned King of the United Kingdom at the long-awaited coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey on May 6th. The public questioned whether Camilla would get a new title after King Charles' coronation.
While Charles was quietly writing his final wishes, Camilla was busy doing what she did best, building power. Her journey to the throne had never been easy. She started as an outsider, someone the public viewed with suspicion and sometimes outright hostility. But Camilla was not someone who gave up easily. She was patient, strategic, and incredibly determined. Year after year, she worked to change how people saw her, slowly transforming from a controversial figure into an accepted part of royal life. Her strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. She made friends in the right places, not just within the palace, but throughout the entire network of people who influenced royal decisions. Politicians, advisors, wealthy donors, media figures. Camilla knew exactly who to charm and when. She attended every important event, always perfectly dressed and carefully prepared. She learned to speak in a way that sounded humble but revealed her strength. She positioned herself not as someone seeking power, but as someone who naturally deserved it. By the time Charles became king, Camilla had built a fortress of loyalty around herself. People who owed their positions to her support, who valued her friendship, who believed in her vision, these became her army. She moved through the palace like someone who belonged there, because in her mind, she absolutely did. More than that, she saw herself as the rightful leader of the monarchy's next chapter. In private conversations with her closest allies, she spoke confidently about the future. She believed William and Catherine, despite their popularity, could be managed. She saw their youth as weakness and her experience as an unbeatable advantage. Camilla wasn't just planning to remain relevant after Charles, she was planning to dominate. She envisioned herself as the power behind the throne, the wise voice guiding younger royals, the steady hand maintaining tradition. It wasn't arrogance exactly, but absolute conviction. She had survived too much, sacrificed too much, worked too hard to simply fade into the background. In her mind, the transition after Charles would be smooth because she would make it smooth. She would be the one making decisions, shaping policies, controlling narratives. But while Camilla was building her empire of influence, she made one critical mistake. She assumed everyone shared her vision. She assumed Charles's silence meant agreement. She assumed that because she stood beside the king, she would continue standing at the center of power forever. She never imagined that the quiet conversations between Charles and Anne were creating a completely different future. She never suspected that a single letter could undo years of careful planning. And she certainly never expected that her greatest moment of confidence would become her most devastating defeat. The letter that changed everything. The day Princess Anne opened that envelope, history shifted. Her voice filled the room as she began reading Charles's words, and immediately everyone knew this was different. This wasn't a standard royal message filled with formal language and diplomatic phrases. This was raw, honest, and brutally clear. Charles had written exactly what he thought, holding nothing back, and the impact was like a thunderbolt striking the palace. He started gently, reflecting on his life and the weight of wearing the crown. He talked about duty, sacrifice, and the constant struggle between personal desires and public responsibility. But then his tone changed. He began discussing the future, what he hoped would happen after his death, and who he trusted to carry the monarchy forward. And here, his words became sharp and unmistakable. He stated clearly that Camilla should step away from all royal duties and decision-making, not reduce her role, not share responsibilities, step away completely. The room erupted in silent shock. People's faces went pale, eyes widened. But Anne kept reading, her voice never wavering. Charles explained his reasoning with painful honesty. He expressed gratitude for Camilla's companionship, but made it clear that gratitude wasn't enough. He believed the monarchy needed fresh leadership, not someone clinging to old power structures. He wrote about moments when their visions had clashed, times when he felt her ambitions overshadowed the crown's true purpose. He never attacked her character, but he questioned her judgment and made it obvious he didn't trust her to lead after he was gone. Then came the part that sealed the future. Charles declared his complete faith in William and Catherine. He called them the perfect embodiment of what the monarchy should represent. Modern yet respectful of tradition, relatable yet dignified, compassionate yet strong. He praised their authenticity and their genuine connection with the public. He made it absolutely clear that they should lead, not as distant figureheads, but as the true faces of the royal family moving forward. And he gave Anne a sacred responsibility. He named her the guardian of his legacy, the one person tasked with making sure his wishes were honored. He trusted her completely because she had never sought power for herself. She had always put duty above ambition, family above politics. In Charles's eyes, Anne was the only one strong enough to stand against anyone who might try to twist his final words or ignore his instructions. As Anne finished reading, the silence was deafening. William sat frozen, processing the enormous responsibility just placed on his shoulders. Catherine fought back tears, understanding the weight of what lay ahead. But Camilla couldn't hold herself together. The color drained from her face. Her breathing became rapid and shallow. Her hands trembled violently. And then, unable to bear the crushing weight of what had just been revealed, she collapsed. People rushed to help her, but the damage was done. In that single moment, Camilla's carefully constructed world had been completely destroyed. The battle for the throne. What followed was unlike anything the palace had seen in generations. The letter created an immediate divide, splitting the royal household into opposing camps. On one side stood those loyal to Camilla, advisors and allies who had built their careers on her influence. On the other side were those who believed Charles's final wish was sacred and had to be honored. The battle lines were drawn, and the fight for the monarchy's future began. Camilla's supporters moved quickly. They questioned the letter's legitimacy, suggesting it was too emotional to be taken as law. They argued that a personal message shouldn't override centuries of royal tradition. Behind closed doors, they searched desperately for legal loopholes, anything that might weaken the letter's power. They pressured palace lawyers, demanded reviews, and tried to frame Anne as someone who had overstepped her authority. But Anne had prepared for this. She had witnesses, she had documentation. She had made sure every detail was airtight before revealing the letter. Every attack against her bounced off harmlessly. Camilla refused to accept defeat. She demanded a private meeting with Anne, and when they met, it was explosive. Camilla argued the letter was misread, claiming Charles never meant for her to disappear. She accused Anne of twisting his words for her own purpose. But Anne stayed calm and firm, saying the letter was Charles's voice, and defying it would betray him. Neither woman backed down. Then William intervened. After processing the shock, he publicly supported Anne and their father's wishes. His message was clear. Charles's words weren't open for debate. As future king, his backing made Anne's stance unshakable. Camilla's allies, now opposing the heir himself, began to retreat one by one. Catherine played her role perfectly. She didn't engage in the political battles directly. Instead, she focused on public perception. Through carefully planned appearances and genuine displays of warmth and duty, she reminded people why Charles had chosen her and William to lead. The public responded enthusiastically, embracing them as the monarchy's future. Meanwhile, Camilla's silence and absence from public events only made her look weaker and more isolated. As days turned into weeks, Camilla's support crumbled. Advisors who once whispered promises of loyalty suddenly found reasons to distance themselves. The palace machinery, sensing the inevitable shift, began aligning with William, Catherine, and Anne. Camilla, who had spent years building an empire of influence, watched helplessly as it collapsed around her. Her desperate attempts to regain control only highlighted how completely she had lost. A new era begins. When the dust finally settled, the transformation was complete. The monarchy had been reshaped not through law or public demand, but through the power of a king's final words. Camilla quietly withdrew from royal duties, her presence fading from the public eye like a shadow disappearing at dawn. There were no dramatic announcements or formal ceremonies marking her departure. She simply became less visible, less relevant, until her absence felt natural. William and Catherine stepped fully into their roles as the monarchy's new leaders. Their appearances carried fresh authority. Their speeches resonated with renewed purpose. The public, which had followed the behind-the-scenes drama through carefully leaked details, embraced them wholeheartedly. People saw justice in what had happened, a king's honest wish overcoming political maneuvering and personal ambition. The monarchy suddenly felt more authentic, more connected to the values ordinary people cared about. Princess Anne remained the quiet force, holding everything together. She didn't seek recognition or celebrate victory. Instead, she focused on making sure Charles's vision was implemented properly and completely. Her role evolved into something more important than any title could capture. She became the moral compass of the royal family, the person everyone looked to when difficult decisions needed to be made. Her unwavering loyalty to Charles's memory gave the entire institution a foundation of integrity it desperately needed. The public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Across the country, people spoke about renewal and fresh hope. Commentators described it as a historic turning point, a moment when the monarchy chose authenticity over politics. William and Catherine's popularity soared to unprecedented levels. They represented not just the future of the crown, but a future people actually wanted to believe in. The contrast with the previous uncertainty couldn't have been stronger, but perhaps the most profound change was invisible. Inside the palace, the culture shifted. The endless political games and whispered alliances that had defined Camilla's era gave way to something cleaner and more straightforward. People began focusing on duty rather than power, service rather than status. It wasn't perfect, royal life never is, but it felt different. It felt like Charles's final wish had done more than change leadership. It had changed the institution's soul. So was King Charles's final wish an act of love or an act of defiance? Perhaps it was both. In his last days, facing the end of his life and reign, Charles made a choice that only the bravest leaders make. He told the truth. He looked at the people closest to him and made a decision based not on convenience or politics, but on what he genuinely believed was right. He trusted his sister to deliver that truth no matter the cost. He placed his faith in his son and daughter-in-law to carry the crown with honor. And he had the courage to tell someone he once loved that her time at the center of power had to end. The moment Camilla collapsed wasn't just shock. It was the weight of reality crushing years of ambition. For so long, she had believed the future was hers to shape. But Charles's letter proved that true power doesn't come from alliances or strategies. It comes from trust, integrity, and the willingness to make hard choices for the greater good. Princess Anne understood this. William and Catherine understood this, and the public understood this. Today, the British monarchy stands at the beginning of a new chapter, one written by a king who refused to let his legacy be controlled by anyone except himself. His final wish echoes through every decision, every appearance, every moment of royal life. It reminds everyone that leadership isn't about holding on to power. It's about knowing when to pass it to those who truly deserve it. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about loyalty, power, and truth, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories from inside the world's most famous royal family. The crown may be ancient, but the battles for its future are always unfolding in ways nobody expects. Stay with us, because this is just the beginning.